But my generation, the point is that it was super enmeshed in pop culture of the American, zeitgeist, right? And that influences a lot of things. Identity influences your choices, your behaviors, the way that you present yourself, all these things. I think it's super interesting to even think of 1999 as a period piece. But it is.
Sir, I'm gonna need you to stop right there because I graduated in 1997, and I am not at the point in my life where my graduation 2 years post is a period piece with friggin' Bridgerton. Okay, no, all right. So you're gonna have to amend that statement. All right.
My grandfather, like many of our grandfathers of the time, especially, it's almost impossible for them to feel anything. Right? Or at least that's what they want you to think, right? They have to be tough.
Yeah.
They have to be so strong. But then there comes a moment when you see them crack. And to anybody that's ever had almost un toro, right? As a father or as a grandfather, when you see them crack, the infallible becomes fallible. It rocks you.
All right, Pero Primos, welcome to the first Hanguiando of 2026 in our new studio. And with us today, I'm very excited. As you know, we love theater here. We love live theater. We love the Arched. We partner with them all the time. And we have with us playwright of How to Break in a Glove, which is running at the Arched from February 5th to the 22nd, Chris Ferrer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, thank you for being our first guest.
Yes, it's an honor.
Yeah, well, you're helping us baptize the joint, so there's going to be a whole ceremony later, christening gowns, the whole 9
Wonderful.
yards.
Yeah, I got free time.
Yeah. So first of all, when they reached out to me from the Arched about your show, I was like, first of all, homegrown talent. Mm-hmm. We're huge on that here. We always want to support local talent. And then when I read about what your show is about, I mean, the outline, obviously, at the time of this recording, I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't even premiered, but when we're recording this, it totally just kind of grabbed me. I'm like, oh, this is not only perfect for our show, but it's just perfect for a Miami debut. Mm-hmm. Right. So why don't you give us tell us a little bit about, what it entails, like what's the story about without spoilers.
Without spoilers, yeah. So How to Break in a Glove is essentially the story of a Cuban-American family set in 1999.
Great year.
It is a great year. And for me, it's a great year because I can't think of another period where you have a Cuban-American family that migrated from Cuba, and then you have 3 generations that you see the slow change, almost a slow assimilation through the generations that came after it, which is, for example, like my generation, right? I was officially first generation American, right? And I say that because I was born here, but my parents came here when they were like, my mom was 6 months old, my dad was like 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so to them, they might as well have been born here.
They were, I mean, for all intents, yeah.
Right. But the difference is that I had a segue, right? My parents were... So the way that I looked at it is my grandparents, 100% Cuban, traditional values, been here, 50 years and don't know a single word of English, which I'm sure a lot of our...
Nobody ever.
So, I mean, it's almost impressive how you can live somewhere and just refuse to learn English because you're so prideful of the country in which you were born from, that you were raised in your whole life, your identity, right? The country gave you the identity, right? And then you have, like my parents, that, my mom was born in 1968. And
thank God. Okay, I thought they were going to be like my age. Okay. All right. Dodge that bullet.
And my mom came here when she was a baby, right? So my mom, for all intents and purposes, sees herself almost in the same way that I view myself, American, However, her parents super enmeshed in Cuban tradition. So I feel like with my parents' generation specifically, the Gen X generation, there is kind of an identity parallel. You know, there's 50% Cuban, 50% American, and it's like this hodgepodge, you know, amalgamation of their identity, right? But then you have my generation that I was raised on MTV and Nickelodeon. You know, I don't know if you remember, but especially here, I don't know if it was like this anywhere else. But when I was growing up, there was like remember the rockers and rappers thing where you kids would like.
Oh, you were one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. You had to choose, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was a skateboarder. My hair was down to here.
So rocker.
Yeah, exactly. My hair was down to here. Puka shells when they were popular. I wouldn't wear that now, but they were. I wore it back then. It was super
We all
popular.
wore puka shells, sir. All
Thank you,
right, you were
thank you.
not alone. I had way too many.
They were super. They were fashionable.
Yes. You know what? Let's bring them back. That should be the topic of your next play.
You know what? How to wear
Yes.
puka shells.
Okay. All right.
But you know, my generation. The point is that it was super enmeshed in pop culture of the American, you know, zeitgeist, right? And that influences a lot of things. You know, identity influences your choices, your behaviors, the way that you present yourself, all these things. And when I write, I'm so fascinated with people and behavior, right? So specifically with How to Break in a Glove, I see that a lot of plays have to do with the political perspective of the Cuban story. I'm more interested in why we behave and speak and think and act in the way that we do, and how that evolution in our offspring, you know, my parents, me, evolve, and how that changes, and how we're still a part of that, and then something else, right? Because in that evolution, you're still a family, right? You think very differently. You express very differently.
But there's still a common bond.
Right, which is family.
Yeah.
But you have to decide, at what point do I accept you for who you are? How do I admit my own shortcomings? Because maybe I'm wrong, right? And that is essentially what the play is about. How do you choose to still love when you probably never learned how to do that? You never learned how. This play is about a bunch of people that love each other, but don't know how to love.
Interesting. I mean, I would say one of the things that, you know, that I don't think I've ever heard specifically with the Cuban-American experience, shall we say, that spin on it, right? Because I think we were kind of touching on this earlier again, like pretty much the pre-interview process is always awful because I never want to talk about anything, but then we wind up talking about it. You know, the fact that you said it in 1999, right, is far enough away where it's, look, being Cuban-American, I think there's always this veneer of politics that's always going to be this undercurrent just because you grew up. I mean, and this play is set in Hialeah, where you grew up. But to make it take place, you know, almost the year 2000, right? Like at the cusp of the new millennium, it's not this like, oh, we just left our home or we just are learning to assimilate. You know, no, we're talking about like you said, it's first generation, but bullshit. It's the second generation, right? Like at that point. And it's also a time period that I think, although at this point it's almost 30 years ago,
right?
It's still more recent, right? It doesn't feel historical in the way that some of these dramas or stories can tend to be, right? And I think that's something that I found very interesting up front, how this is such a timeless story, but you're almost pulling it forward, right? You're kicking and screaming.
Right. Yeah. You know, I think it's super interesting to even think of 1999 as a period piece. But it is.
Sir, I'm going to need you to stop right there because I graduated in 1997 and I am not at the point in my life where my graduation 2 years post is a period piece with friggin' Bridgerton, okay? No. All right. So you're going to have to amend that statement. All right.
All right. You're right. It's not a period piece.
I'm just gonna give him a moment so he can collect his thoughts and reassess. No, but you're right. It is a period piece. I mean, it's the 1900s, as the kids say now, right?
I hate it when they say that.
So,
I always feel like I'm Shakespeare when they say
well,
late
you are a
1900s.
playwright, so you're closer to Shakespeare than I am.
Oh God, touche.
See, now who feels old, right? Now I've just put you into like, I don't know, pre-Renaissance era. But I wanted to bring up the descriptions that are in the press release of the characters, because I think I immediately kind of understood these archetypes. And I want to use the word archetype because I think what I'm getting is that you're not so much leaning into stereotypes and cliches, right? And that's why I think archetype is a very distinct word to use, right?
Yeah.
It's the iron-willed grandfather. I mean, I'm picturing this gentleman already literally ending every sentence with like, because communism, right? Like that's just as it is, devoted but weary grandmother, a father fighting for relevance, and a mother torn between rebellion and responsibility. Like, I know, maybe it's because I'm from Miami. I know these people.
Right.
I know these characters, right? So I know you're pulling from your life, but did you find that there's also like a universality? If that's a word, right?
Yes, yes. So in my mind, again, this is a play about behavior, right? It's about I don't answer anything, right? I just
You probably do, by the way.
maybe I do, but it
You
wasn't
probably do for the individual. You probably do.
right. But that's which is lovely, right? But that's not the intention in writing. It's to hold a mirror up to nature, right? That is our job, right? I care so much about the specificity of and the contradictions of human behavior, right? And I think that every experience that I've ever had in my life, every person that I've met, is essentially a weapon in the arsenal of an artist, right? So,
I love that.
so thanks. Put on a shirt.
God, it's like he's a writer. It's like
So, although these characters are inspired by my family, for example, they evolved into 100 other people, right? And it's in those eccentricities, the specificity, that you get the universality, right? Which is an interesting contradiction there, because
But it's true.
specificity, right? Because when you strip away all the labels and all this stuff that people, the tribalism, so to speak, that people fall into, right? We are very much alike in the way that we misbehave, the way that we fight back, the way that we avoid things, the way that we handle emotion, our fears, and that is what I love to really pick at. I love to pick at that. I love to analyze how somebody could be a total asshole, but then all of a sudden they do something that's really heartfelt, and it's like, why did they do that? Why did they do that? And then you strip that away, and that to me is just so powerful,
I mean, again, because we're not, as human beings, right? And that's why, again, I go back to the thing that I use the word archetype, right? We are not black and white creatures. Some of us are a little more than others, maybe, but we are, a totality of experiences,
Right?
And we're not always just going to do the expected thing or the right thing or the wrong thing. It's always, and even when we do the right thing or the wrong thing, it's the why.
Right.
There's always some type of motivation, whether you know it or not.
Right.
So I love the fact that, you were kind of digging into that. And again, not just saying like, well, this is the loudmouth, uncle or what have you. It's, yeah, but why is he a loudmouth?
Exactly.
Why does he say inappropriate things or what have you?
Right. And that's what I find the most interesting. I mean, when I first started writing this play, I mean, my grandparents were the impetus of this play as a whole, right?
They're still with you?
My grandfather is. My grandmother passed away when I was young. Spoiler. But my grandfather, like many of our grandfathers of the time, especially, it's almost impossible for them to feel anything, right? Or at least that's what they want you to think, right? They have to be tough.
Yeah.
They have to be so strong. But then there comes a moment when you see them crack. And to anybody that's ever had almost un toro, right? As a father or as a grandfather, when you see them crack, the infallible becomes fallible. It rocks you, right? That is devastating and beautiful all in one. Because at that moment, you identify with them in a way that they've always tried to hide from you. And it's that hiding that makes me curious, right? Because it's like, man, if the tougher I see somebody present themselves, I almost wonder how much pain are you living in isolation.
And it's not until the crack that you're like, oh, you're a person.
Right.
I see. Like I'm thinking of several times, several moments that I've seen that with like my grandfather, my father, and I'm just thinking about it. I'm getting a little like, because it does make you take that step back and go, oh, this is, for lack of a better word, this is a facade.
Right.
This was I don't want to say an act, but this was a necessity.
Exactly.
It was a necessity, especially, with being plucked out of your country and dropped into a new one and okay, go.
Right.
Survive.
Right.
Make something of your life. Oh, and you've got a family. Enjoy.
Yep. See, and that nuance, that truth that's hiding beneath the cracks, that is art to me. That subtle beauty is what drives me to tell stories. That's what drives me to be an actor. I love those things because they're almost glossed over. That it's really nice to get a group of people take a second and literally smell the roses. We see trees every single day in abundance, and we don't realize how valuable they are just to keep us alive.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that I feel like real art, that art is supposed to do. It's supposed to recalibrate us, and that's really what I would like the people that come watch this play to experience, a sort of recalibration, not just with the way that they view themselves within their family, but the way that they view the relatives that they kind of dismiss as a label.
Right.
It's very important to me personally.
100%. I want to get into, because this is the result of your work with City Theater.
Right.
And City Theater partners, many times with our center through Theater Up Close. I know you were part of the summer shorts program.
Yes.
That I spotlighted several of your I don't know what, like, co-playwrights. I don't know what you would call them. Your colleagues.
The playwriting cohort.
They're your cohorts. Wow, that sounds like you guys are plotting something, and I'm okay with that. But even before I get to that, though, I wanted to ask a question. Just talking to you, this is a question that just came to me. Like, you've said many times that you're interested in like that study of human behavior, right? And that's what you put on the page. Were you always that kid, or was there a moment, like, can you recall a moment where you just kind of were like, oh, and felt like that impetus to just express it somehow, whether it's on the written page or painting or somehow, you know what I mean? Or were you just always that kid who was always like, huh?
Yeah, I think that it shows up before you even know what it is. And I think that it shows up by being the weird kid, I think it shows up by feeling weird, You think a little differently. You ask a lot of questions, and that was me specifically. I asked a lot of questions. I wondered about things that my friends didn't care about. My friends just wanted to like play football and at 5 years old just eat ants. Like that's what they were doing.
They are delicious. Gotta say, I get it. They were the red ones a little spicy, but yeah.
Too much sazon on the red ants.
It's the behold.
But I mean, I think that for me specifically, I started to want to express before I even knew what I was doing, right? And it starts off in class assignments,
True. That makes sense.
In class assignments, it's do this homework assignment, and I care a little bit more about this essay or this poem or whatever than my classmates do. And it's like, wow, that's really interesting. And then the teachers start to tell you something that you don't even know, you know? And I feel like that's really how you kind of identify that, I think, you know, when the teachers are like, wow, and you're like, what do you mean, you know?
Because that's just who you are.
Right.
You're not trying.
Right. Right. And that's kind of like, you know, the old thing about the ugly duckling. It's the same concept, you know, you're different and you think differently than the people around you. And then you just start to hone those things. What you thought was odd or weird or an inhibitor of social constructs becomes a gift that you just learn how to, you know, utilize.
Right.
For me, it started off, which I still consider myself. It's interesting because I don't consider myself a playwright necessarily. I consider myself an actor who happens to write, because I'm an actor first, and I always will be. I love being on stage or telling a story, and I feel like that has helped me in my writing.
And yet you've written, I mean, as far as I know, at this point, you've written a full length and 2 shorts, right?
This is my second produced play, full length play.
Okay. And yet you still consider yourself an actor first.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what the irony
that's
is?
Just, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what's the irony is that they tell you as an actor, they say to create your own work. Create your own work. If no one's going to hire you, hire yourself. That's what they always say.
Why do you think we started this show?
Yeah, exactly. But the irony is, I write my own work. They don't let me be in my own stuff.
Well, okay. In all fairness, I think it'd be difficult for you to play a 9-year-old boy.
Right.
You know, you're very boyish, but that facial hair is not going to cut it. You know,
I mean, there are razors.
Fair enough. Okay, answer for everything. This guy, God.
No, but I mean, I always, as a safeguard, I always write a character that I could play. You know, as a safeguard. And I just haven't been able to do it yet. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll keep writing them until I can be.
Okay,
in it.
but I'm gonna devil's advocate it, and I'm not blowing smoke, but I think that may also just be a testament to what you write, because it probably means that you're writing for yourself, but not from a place of ego.
No, not at all.
Right? You're writing for a character that you want to see. Right. So yes, you want to play it because you want to see it. But I think, again, that goes back to the specificity of the universality, right? You're also creating characters that other people are probably seeing and going, oh, but I want to be that.
Right.
I want to do that.
That's the part about being an actor that I think really helps, because I can tell, not as I'm writing, because then I'm not connected to the story. It's when I reread it, I'm like, oh man, as an actor, that's going to be crazy to play, you know? So I think it's fun to write things that I believe an actor would love to sink their teeth into, you know, either because it's challenging or because it's fun. So I definitely think that has not just influenced me, but I don't know. I just think that it's fun to do that, you know.
All right. So I mentioned City Theater. Theater up close, and you know, again, I saw your summer shorts play a couple years back. So my question for you though is, you know, how does one go from a play about robots on a spaceship to a 24-hour play about Wolverine and pegging to a story set in Hialeah about coming of age?
Well, I just kind of have this like wheel that I spin, and whatever it lands on.
I mean, clearly, it's done you some good. It's, you know.
I think
I love the diversity of, like, literally, it's because sometimes you get these, you know, people who it's like, well, I always write about, you know, the Victorian Death March, you know, or whatever, and it's like, no, sir, there is no pigeonholing your writing if we're going on those 3 alone.
I mean, I just don't think it's fun to write about the same kind of me personally, the same kind of thing over and over again. I like to challenge myself. I think comedy comes, like writing comedy specifically, comes fairly naturally to me.
It's hard.
I gravitate towards it. Comedy is harder than drama, I think.
Dying is easy. Comedy's hard.
Right, right. And I've written a bunch of farces, a bunch of farcical comedies, heightened comedies, and ridiculous things. And then I don't know. I just think that it's just an evolution in challenging myself as a writer. Seeing where else I can go. And specifically with the homegrown cohort through City Theater that I was a part of, which
is a great program.
It has done wonders for me, truly. On top of the fact of giving me a platform to grow as an artist, it was able to give me this connection to produce this play.
Yep.
And more so, I don't think that would have ever even explored the idea of this play had it not been for the homegrown program with City Theater. Because one of the things that they kept having us think about is, how does being an artist from Miami influence your artistry? And I don't think I've ever thought of that before.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I would just think as a creative, and again, my creative experience is a little limited insofar as just like the podcast, right? But it informs so much of just who we are on this show and how we communicate, how we interview, how we just interact, that I kind of assume just it's this inherent thing that all creatives kind of like, in some weird way, just it is there, whether they realize it or not, right? Obviously, it's probably a harder connection to a spaceship farce, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it does inform where you're from.
It does, and writing this play proved that. And it's one of those things that I was kind of like, wow, this is an amazing moment. It's like it's in my family is in me. My ancestors' land is in me. As far removed as I personally feel, like I said, I grew up idolizing like skateboarders, and like my favorite band was like Incubus growing up. You know what I mean? I was super all about wanting to live in California since I was 16 years old. You know what I mean? I that's just the zeitgeist of the circle that I was in, right? And then when they proposed that, how does Miami influence you? At first thought, I was like, it doesn't at all. What are you talking about? I want to be in California. But then I really stopped to think, and I started to think about my childhood, and I started to think about how all that connects. And then I started to think about how my grandfather spoke, and the needle started to thread, and then I got the real desire to write this play. And then I started writing in their voices, and I was like, oh shit, it's coming out of me, and it's like it was there the whole time. So where I might have felt un poquito como un Latino arrepentido a little bit, right. I'm kind of really proud that I was able to connect in a way that I never felt like I could.
You feel like this was you kind of like reclaiming
absolutely
that part of your culture?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think it's so personal to me. I think it's a very personal play because I allowed myself to not just tap into certain things that I recall from my childhood. I allowed myself to be proud of it. And I think that that's incredibly special to me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, especially because you're from Hialeah.
Yeah.
As we were talking earlier, I'm a Westchester boy. I apologize on behalf of Westchester for making Hialeah feel less than.
Yeah, you were the upper class.
We just said that. Again, it's branding, really. It's, we were not Kendall, okay? But we had y'all believing we were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, so I apologize.
It's okay.
We're mending fences here today. That's what the point is. So, you're born and raised Miami boy, right? I mean, we know, I know who you are, quote unquote, right? Like, I didn't grow up in Hialeah, but like we know each other, right? In that sense. So now your play is premiering at the Archetypes Center, right? Like, how does that feel? And
Amazing.
sub question, how does your family feel?
Oh man. Well, first it feels I feel incredibly lucky. I mean, the part that I keep thinking about is the cohort that I was in. I mean, I was with a bunch of amazing writers. So the fact that I was chosen, I just feel like it was just luck. I feel like we drew straws and I drew the short one. It was me, but it could have easily been any of them. They're incredibly talented and I love them very much. They inspire me tremendously. So I feel very fortunate, very lucky, and very thankful that this is even happening. You know, I think that getting a play produced in general is incredibly difficult to have done. So that's absolutely not lost on me, and I'm very grateful for it. My mom started to cry when I told her. Of joy.
Wouldn't it have been great though if she's just like, ¿Cómo tú vas a poner nuestra historia? Like, you know, it would have been the total opposite of the, you know, the reason.
Well, there was a lot of conversations where I'm like, Mom, this is inspired by, it's not you.
Okay.
You know, I need to make that clear. You know, it's not you, it's just inspired by. Because my mom would also be the one, I never did that. Your grandfather never did that. Your mom never did that.
It's not an autobiography, Mom.
But yeah, they're very, very, very proud of me. You know, my little brother, he's 10 years younger than me.
Oh.
And, you know, he's a man of few words, to be honest, but I see and I feel that when he looks at me and he expresses himself to me, that I tell him that I'm doing this, he's like, it makes him feel, I don't want to speak for him, but it makes me feel like he's proud of me, you know?
I bet he's the one that's going to break on premiere night.
Maybe. Well, we'll see.
Yes.
We'll see.
I want to report back. Let me know if he starts to cry.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. I'll put a camera on him the whole time.
There you go. We're gonna brother cam.
Yeah.
That's just what we're gonna do. It's a live stream from the Arsht. We're just gonna have it happen. Everybody's gonna be taking bets. It's gonna be the new thing on Kalshi. But I have to say, you know, and again, I can't wait to see the show. I know there's una mosca that's just been like circling around. Like I'm trying to ignore it, and it's like it wants to be known. It's like I am the third guest on this show. I cannot wait to see this show. Like again, as of right now, you know, just based on what I'm reading, having met you, I love any show or any piece of art. Let me broaden it, that speaks to our shared experience.
Mm-hmm.
And when it decides to do it authentically, but also from a place of culture and not necessarily heavy-handed melodrama or political statement, so to speak, right? Where it's just about like, this was just every day and this is how we were. That will always just draw my attention. And it's always just going to be something that I will seek out. So thank you for creating something that ultimately tells our story from a lens that I think isn't always easy to capture.
Right.
Because it's not the low-hanging fruit.
Right. Right. I mean, for me, I really just want people to be able to connect with it. You know, if somebody leaves that theater wanting to call their mom, you know, then I did my job. You know, that's the point.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna set up phone banks outside.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. It's gonna be
Dial
like,
a mom?
like Liga contra Cancer, just, you know, but Liga to call your mother. Chris, thank you so much for swinging by. Again, Pero Primos, no excuses. How to Break in a Glove is at the Arch Center starting February 5th through the 22nd. O sea, you have a month to go see it. Mm-hmm. I know this is Miami. I know we all love to leave shit to the last minute. You know what? Go. All right. You have no excuses. Go to our, you know, the Arch website, buy the tickets, and support local talent. Because honestly, if we don't tell our own stories, who will?
Who will?
So thank you so much, and thank you for swinging by.
Thank you. Appreciate it.